With that being said, I just want to highlight the very first story. Paul, okay, let me put it nicely. I don't want to put it succinctly. Let me put some shade over it. Paul, I think you guys should take it up first because I wanted to come so hard on Paul right now, but I realized that.
Please do.
Because.
Please do.
Okay, happy birthday again to Nigeria. And sometimes last week, remember that the Nigerian Labour Congress and, of course, the TUC, they come up to tell us that tomorrow, which is the 3rd of October, there's going to be some nationwide strike. And all agitations were all out in asking Nigerians to heed to this call for going on a strike for XYZ reasons that were listed. And yesterday, being the 1st of October, we see the NLC, the TUC, having talks with the federal government. And there has been some resolutions. So in other news, the planned nationwide strike will not be holding as it should. But before we get to that, yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, did make an Independence Day speech and highlighted some major things, of which the very, very major that has been on the lips of people is the fact that he is interested in ensuring that Nigerians, the level of hardship that they experience will be cut down, especially for the federal government workers, highlighting 25,000 naira increment for them on a monthly basis for the next 6 months. I will throw it to the guys because the next thing I'm about to say is beautiful. Paul, no matter how much you close your eyes, I don't think I want us to start on that heated note. Let me throw it up to Christoph.
No, first and foremost to say congratulations to Nigerians.
Again,
no strike.
Yes.
No strike. We maintained on the show that the strike was not going to hold. So that's we prophesied, and we have a testimony. It's not going to hold. No strike is going to do anybody any good, right? So we look for other ways to resolve the impasse. This is expected, if you ask me. We knew Labour wasn't going on any strike. They will make concessions here and there. They will reach certain conclusions, and thankfully so. But our concern has always been that is there no way they can... we said something behind the scene about twist the government to such a point where they will take concrete steps. Because, you see, we're still talking palliatives, and palliatives were defined to be something that does not solve a challenge. They just, give some kind of succor for the time being, and that's not what we want. 25,000 per month.
For 6 months.
For 6 months. Just look at it, juxtapose it with the increase in fuel prices to tell you that this is still not near what is expected from the government. While I will say, okay, Paul, I want to ask you this question because we had this discussion. The federal government knew Labour was not going on strike. Personal opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, personal opinion, because they know that eventually they'll find a way around it. And Labour gave adequate notice also to create room for negotiations. Personal opinion still, right? Okay. Do you think this government has done anything worthy of praise, especially with some of these resolutions, which I'm sure you have and want to reel out?
No, sure. Okay, yeah. Let me start by saying that it's a nice thing that Labour is announcing a thing and giving them ample time where there can be room for conversations and negotiations. Yeah. And that is nice. That is a good one. Because in what you're doing, in anything you're doing, you must set things in motion and put things in the right direction. Mm-hmm. I always want to say that what we're seeing with this government is that the plans that Labour has concerning the strike, concerning the people, we're seeing that at least now the government is quickly responding one way or the other. Why am I saying that? You know, when you have a government that is not properly settled, just finish a case from the tribunal that might lead to the Supreme Court, and you're not too sure, but you want to do as much as we can in that short space of time.
Do you think that's the current issue with the government?
That is what is happening, because prior to this time, we had a government that ruled Nigeria for 8 years, and the president was not talking. Yeah. It was not addressing matters at all. All you just see, the best that former President Muhammadu Buhari will do is just to send a tweet and say, I am saddened. Things were happening across all the region, geopolitical zones in the nation. He didn't say nothing. It was as though he was not hearing that the operation he was going to go and do was very necessary to him. He wasn't even hearing what Nigerians were happening. But now you're seeing that the present one, is coming forth at least one way or the other. I would say that is it that NLC is playing into their hands, or one way or the government is also wanting to see what's happening? It's a romance of the both, because NLC the other time said they wanted to go on the strike, and quickly the government, 2 days before the accepted day of strike, came out to say and make a statement which fell into June 12th. And it came up and said that, please, Nigerians, I'm giving so amount of money to every state government as palliatives. When you hear that they're giving millions or billions to the state government as palliative, why did he do that? The idea is the advisors behind the scene are saying, please, there's going to be trouble. Quickly address this matter. And let's not be as though, bring out the carrot as though, yeah, well, at least you are doing something. So in other words, you are agreeing. It happened before, and it also happened now. So are you saying, Paul, I'm not supporting. See, I said before we came live, I said, we said on the show, we're not supporting the break up, the total shutdown of anything. Yeah. But remember, the moment the things that are going to do are going to affect the leaders directly. Someone already said that, okay, they're going to get fuel. But don't forget that these same government people, Nupeng and almost even the banks, everybody are going to go on a shutdown. It will affect them one way or the other. Quickly, the president comes and addresses and says, okay, I'm looking at your matter. They had an issue. They had a meeting with NLC and TUC, which ended up in a deadlock. Yeah. There's still no acceptance from the NLC. As much as there's no acceptance from the NLC, but what you're saying that, okay, they were not bringing it, but now, and I brought something to the table. I brought something to the table. That is what I'm saying that the government in its own way is seeing the loopholes to come to act. We had prayed, I would prophesy here that there will be no strike because it's not going to be good for the economy. But because of, I will say again, like you said it was opinion. My opinion, I stand to be corrected, is that it was due to what the pressure that the NLC and the TUC said and every other persons that were involved in this strike had put forward. That was why the president quickly made these things. I beg to differ because... that's my own opinion too as well. Christoph highlighted a point when he was asking questions. We've seen time and time again having to go on a nationwide strike, either by the NLC and joint strike by the TUC. We've seen this same line of action for so many years. Yeah. You were asking a question, are there no other creative ways of twisting the government to actually and eventually concretize whatever resolutions? We have been, we're talking about NLC and TUC. Have you forgotten about the ASU strike? There's been back and forth. The government, the president of the day comes to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to clear this, we're going to do that. They make speeches, statements are being uttered. Yeah. And we go back to living our normal lives as Nigerians. The strike has come to an end, but nothing ever gets to happen. The issues remain. The issues remain. 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, 10 months down the line, we're coming back. The ASU or the NLC or the TUC is coming back to tell Nigerians, look, we're going to go on other strike actions because our demands, like the government did say that we're going to meet, were never met. Now you have a president who comes out. It's Independence Day. Nigerians are expecting him to make a speech. So anything to say, this is what I think, anything to say, okay, to keep, to keep Nigerians quiet. He dangles 25,000 naira in front of Nigerians to say, okay, look, all the federal government workers, I'm going to be giving you 25,000 for the next 6 months to cushion the effects of the removal of fuel subsidy, the hike, the inflation, and all that we experience in the country. What does that even mean? And the other resolutions that were put there. So we see that we have had a system of government for the last God knows how many years, where we have a government who understands that the mindset or how to work the minds of Nigerians. Because you know it's Democracy Day, it's Independence Day, and whatever days that we have as national days or national holidays, and speeches are being read out for writing's sake. Have in mind that this president, some of them don't even know what is contained in the speech. Either an advisor to the president on media and publicity.
saying anything. Yeah.
No, President Buhari was not even talking.
We had an issue with the previous government saying not talking. Now we have an issue, a current issue with the government who is talking. But his talks have done nothing so far for Nigerians.
Okay, see.
So you want to tell me because he wants the NLC, for me, NLC, TUC, whatever unions, never mounted any pressure on the government. Like you said, we have been seeing a romantic display of relationship between the unions, the Labour Congress, and the government. I always say that politics is a game of numbers. So you come out and tell people that, oh, look, we're going to go on a strike. Then the government comes, okay, we're going to come. No, so you are playing Ludo, you're playing chess with the minds of Nigerians, and you're playing with the lives of people. We're talking about tangible lives here. The day, whether NLC goes for the strike or not, things will remain hard. The prices of things will skyrocket more in the market.
Yeah.
Who bears the weight of that increment? You want to tell me that those in Aso Rock are going to bear it?
Sylvia, sorry, I see, you see, one of the things I'll just...
So, Paul, that's also my opinion.
No,
because I was just thinking...
Maybe our viewers are going to have to give us another, you know,
we're saying the
a leveling ground on this conversation.
We are saying the same
thing. No, we're practically...
we are not saying the same thing.
Paul, just a minute, I need to create some, maybe divert a bit, because... While the government is talking about giving people support for the next 6 months, we have always asked this question, what next, on the one side. Secondly, is it cash that people really want at this point in time? Is that what Nigerians are really...
I think Paul can answer.
Because, you see, again, if you give a man who does not have capacity 10 million naira...
He will go back to zero.
He will go back to zero in the matter of weeks. So... are we not supposed to rechannel resources to create structures that will sustain some form of prosperity? I agree. Our man of God has told us something, that no government has been designed to make you prosper.
Of course.
But they also have a role of creating an enabling environment. One of the major reasons why we are where we are today is because of the price of fuel. That's why we got to this point, when subsidy was removed, right? And until that is addressed, we'll still have this thing going on. That's on the one side. On the other side, the government has done well by giving them 25,000. But is that what we need? That's that question. I still don't want to agree that that's what we need. At this point in time, we're looking at how they will do something that is sustainable. You're talking about 6 months. We're looking at something that will run for years on end. Something that you look for. If you say Nigerians should tighten their belt, we should see things that are being done, you know, systematically in such a way that we know that in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years...
This ride is just going to be for the next 5 years or the next 2 years.
But there's nothing like that. That's where the problem is. You said something, Sylvia, that I will latch on. You said that ASU has been going on strike from time to time. They will reach an agreement with the government. And this is successive governments. This has been on for as long as I can remember. They reach an agreement with the government, then 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, they go back to, you know, where they were coming from. Yeah, so...
Okay, let me just ask. Okay, in this
well, I just want to ask. He's asking a question because you're saying you've given us a responsibility as citizens of this beautiful nation to, you know, fasten our seatbelts. Yeah. What are you doing on the other side? We've had SDGs. Every single time, as we prepare for what we're talking about, the fiscal budget and the rest of it, there are SDGs. We have a sector for the sustainable development goals. Yeah. So every time, that's what I'm talking about, speeches. We come out, we reel out SDGs from time to time, either national holidays or whatever it is, or maybe a new government is introduced. Different state governors and governments come to say, okay, this is what we're going to do to ensure that we have, these are our sustainable developmental goals, to ensure our state goes from 0 to 2.2. You know, all of these are happening. Yeah. Large chunks of money are being pushed to ensure that these SDGs come to a fruition. Yeah. Could there be a sabotage of these SDGs? That's what I'm talking about. Are we sure? Now I'm thinking, are we sure that these unions also do not have a role to play implementing the economy and keeping the economy where it is?
I think you have your answers.
Okay, let me
I'm sorry, Paul. I just wanted to just...
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we said something earlier when we started. The economic policies of this world were programmed to fail. No matter how well-intentioned they are not sustainable. Don't forget that the so-called SDGs were given to us. They gave us a template, which they know will not work. Whether you know, whether we believe it. That's why only Africans can solve Africans' problems. Only Nigerians can solve Nigeria's problems. But that is a template that was written by somebody and handed over to us. Yesterday, as recent as yesterday, Pastor called them the World Economic Forum, and it's
sinister.
It's just a conglomerate of evil. People coming
handed
together,
over to the nations
to perpetuate evil, and they color it with a lot of beautiful, beautiful names and hand over to the nations, knowing fully well that they are bound to fail. I think it was during one of your Love World segment that Pastor talked about Indonesia.
Yeah.
And how they were handed over a template. Yeah. The same thing is going around. So the SDGs will not work. What we're looking at is a situation where nations will take... there's a story that...
See, I just wanted to say, in all of these things we're saying, let's look at ourselves in all fairness. The leaders, the people in government, are they not Nigerians?
Of course they are.
Were they downloaded? Did they come from Jupiter or Pluto or Mars or Mercury or Venus? They are Nigerians. They are Nigerians. Aside from Adam and Eve, which are them I'm going to say.
The only adults.
They're the only ones that were the adults. But every other person that we know grew up as children here. You're talking about a set of persons that grew up as children here in Nigeria. Whether you were born abroad or you were here in Nigeria. You went through the schooling system. We were here on the show many times last year. What we talked and said that even the leaders that are there, they were beneficiaries of the educational system. But these guys were so blatantly wicked to the point where for 8 months or 9 months, children were locked up, were in the house because of a strike, and yet they had the temerity to approve the signings of new private universities. So there are different things. I will always say, these people, whether the unions are saying their own or the government, these are Nigerians. So until we come to the point where it's not about society, talk about society. Society is not the buildings or the trees. Are the human beings? We must start. That's what we say. We'll go back with the power of the book, the power of the mind, and the rest of the realities to get across to them. Because if these people's minds are not changed, it doesn't matter what happens. Like I said, prior to this time, you said the ASUU strike. My father and the people before him went on strike. What is it about? It's not about the present government.
Yeah.
It's a people. In Japan, I will just end with saying, in Japan, there is an ideology that is sold from the childhood that you have to take care of your environment and the economy. We saw the Japanese go for the World Cup at 2 different times. The fans clean after. I have a cousin that is in Japan, and he said, up until now, they're always on time, they do this timely. They are
so
not.
It's a reculturing.
It's a reculturing. It's the people. It's certain of these different things. Are you talking about a former comrade governor that was an NLC president that's now in government that will speak on behalf of the people? No.
You just, in capping up this conversation, you use the right word where it has to do with the mindset.
Yeah.
And it's a reculturing. Sometimes the reason why we actually highlight all these loopholes is for people to see how they can be relevant and come up to speed and make a difference.